What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me, where today I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the steps step by step on how you can create this Christmas tree design. Now, as always, there's links to everything you're going to need in the description down below, as well as helpful guides on how to add every single element for today's design. As always, when you're done with today's design, make sure to tag me in it over on Instagram, and you can do one better and come and join my Discord community. It's completely free to join. You can come and share your work from my tutorials or any other tutorials that you followed, or even your own work with other enthusiasts of Procreate. And make sure to subscribe to the channel, of course, for weekly Procreate content. But if you want even more tutorials from me, you can come and join me over on Patreon, where I share exclusive tutorials every single month to my Patreon supporters. And the catalogue sits at nearly 90, if not slightly over by the time you're watching this. So you'll get access to 90 exclusive tutorials when you join, again with 3 more added every single month. So hit the link in the description down below and come and show your support. And with all that said, have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, and let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, you'll see a couple of different guides on my screen. First of all, I've added in the guide image. This is a very, very loose sort of guide for your tree positioning. And to add that in, you're just going to need to go up to your actions, go to the option of add, and insert it either from your files or from your gallery, depending on where you save that to. There's a helpful guide in the description down below if it's a bit tricky for you to get it into Procreate. The other thing I've done is added a 4x4 grid, and to do that you go to your actions, canvas, we'll go ahead and turn on the drawing guide, and then we'll edit that drawing guide. And if you change the grid size down here, change it to 1/4 of whatever your canvas size is. My canvas is 2000 by 2000, so my grid size should be 500. And then that gives me the 4x4 grid here. The first thing we'll do is we'll go to our background color. I'm going to grab this color here in the bottom right of the palette. We're then going to hit done. We're going to create a new layer, drag it down and underneath the guide. So the guide should somewhat stay at the very top, really. We're then going to go ahead and go to our colors. We're going to grab this color here. It is the top of the second column. We're going to go to our brush. I'm going to go to calligraphy and the monoline brush, and it does not really matter what your brush size is. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. I'm going to drop it down to 20%. It's not critical, but we're going to draw in a circle in the middle of the screen and then hold your pen at the end, and it will try and make it a perfect circle. But if it doesn't, just pop your finger on the screen like so and make it as large as you can without going off the edges. We're then going to grab our cursor. We're going to make sure, first of all, snapping down here is turned on in the bottom left, so turn on snapping. And we're going to tap on any one of the nodes around the outside, these little blue dots. And if you tap on it, you can change this to 1708. And it will just resize it for you. And then because we've got snapping turned on, you should be able to drag it into the center of the screen like so, until you get those 2 orange lines, which lets you know you're perfectly horizontal and vertical at the same time in the middle of your canvas. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. And then drag the color from the top right into the outside area. And this is going to act as our frame for later on. We're going to go ahead now and draw in our tree. And for a moment, we'll just go ahead and create a new layer and put it above our little sort of circle crop there. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab the color here at the bottom of the 3rd column from the right. Same brush as before, but I want to show you that if I go to my brush and the monoline and we tap on it, if you go to the stabilization tab, we've maxed out the streamline and we've got about 65% there on the stabilization. To hit done, and that'll just mean that your lines are going to be super nice and smooth. Now we're going to take a look at the guide here, and this is literally just very basic sort of guide as to where you could potentially drop all of your little sort of flicks and twirls off of your tree. So I'm just going to start up here above the circle and just create a curve. You can hold your pen down to create a nice perfect curve, or you can edit the arc if needs be. And all you're going to want to do is simply just create little sort of flicks like this, little sort of flicks like that. So we'll go down again, we'll create another one, we'll create a flick inwards. You can then create little tiny ones underneath if you want, a little something like this. And then you can go ahead and swoop down like this. So we're just creating some really simple line shapes down here, and you can get a little bit intricate with it if you want. You know, you can create like little tiny smaller ones off from one another, and I can let that run down here, give it some space, then draw in another one. And yours is going to look different to mine, and that's great. We want everybody's to look a little bit different to one another. That's fine. So we're just creating all these little sort of flick outwards all the way down, and we'll continue just towards the edge here of the canvas. And then once you get to the bottom, you just want to go ahead and just try and continue these up into that middle point here, like so. And you may need to start to think about rotating your angle ever so slightly as you make your way past that center point. Now at this point, what we'll do is, to save some time, we'll go to the layer, we'll swipe it to the left and we'll duplicate it. If you grab your cursor then and you flip it horizontally, you can just go ahead and move it so that the points at the top connect. And I don't mind this mayhem down here, it's actually not too bad at all. We can tap on our cursor when we're done. We can go ahead and pinch the two layers together and then drag and drop the color in, and then just see where else we need to drag the color into. And you can tap on this button here, continue filling, and you can just tap, 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 tap. And you might only have a small few gaps there that need the color. And when you're done, you can go back to your brush and just brush over the top of any little sort of lines here that have left any excess. And when you zoom out, you should have this awesome looking little tree silhouette. Just going to draw in another one here. Going to make sure it's a little bit symmetrical. Drag and drop the color in just to add in a little bit more sort of depth to the bottom. So now we've got our silhouette of our tree, we can then go ahead and move on to the next step, which is then going to be creating the little additional shapes that are going to sit here at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to, first of all, go to our layers. We're going to drag our tree underneath our circle. We're going to lose the top of it for a moment, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and create a new layer. We'll drag it underneath the tree. We'll go ahead and go to our colors. We're going to go and grab this color here, the bottom of the fourth column from the right. And we're just going to draw in a very simple sort of stump down here. You don't want to make it too sort of detailed or large in any way. I'm going to just make it a little bit wider than I initially planned. And then I'm just going to give it a bit of a wavy sort of bottom on it and link that up. Just two little points on either side, and then link it up across the top as well so that you can just drag and drop your color in. And then you should have your little stump at the bottom. You can then go to your layers and create another new layer. We'll drag it underneath our stump. We'll go to our colors. We'll grab the bottom color in the second column from the right, and we'll just create a very, very loose sort of mound of snow here. So just like a wobbly line. This blue is probably a little bit tricky to see, but I've gone all the way around to the start point. So I drew along here, all the way around to my start point, so I can drag and drop the color in. And that's going to be the base color for down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the guide at the very top now because we're done with that. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the tree. I'm going to tap on it and select it. Now make sure color fill is grayed out at the bottom here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our little circle that we created at the very top. We're going to go to our eraser. We're going to make our brush size of the soft airbrush. It doesn't matter what your brush is, just something like the soft airbrush under airbrushing will be fine. We're just going to erase this little tip at the top here. Tap on your selection tool when you're done, and now the top of the tree will exceed the circle, giving you that kind of 3D look to it. Let's then go ahead now and add in some color to the tree. So we're going to create a new layer above the tree. We're going to tap on it and we're going to clipping mask it to it. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab the middle color here in the second column from the right. We're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to the option of drawing, and we're going to use my favorite brush at the moment, the Blackburn brush. I'm going to set the brush size to around about maybe sort of 16%. And we're going to add in some snow onto our branches. So you want to kind of start a little bit lighter at the top of each one of these flicks, and then just create these little sort of V shapes. So I'm just going to create like another little sort of V shape here, and less will be more here. So we don't want to go over the top with adding in too much color up here too early. And then at the very top, we'll of course add in a lovely big, bright, snowy peak on the top of our tree here. And again, less is more. We're looking for these areas here underneath a branch above to maybe just have the tiniest little bit of a shadow to it. I'm going to keep the brush size as low, or the pressure as light as possible, so I get this like little scrapey nature to the brush. And if we do the same here, we're just creating little V shapes. Now leave the center of your tree. The tree center will come very easily to you because we'll do both sides first. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to very easily just fill in the gaps. It's much easier to do that with these types of trees than to make your way from left to right fully. I'm just tipping my pen on its side, just trying to create little bits of texture. And then inwards of the tree, little flicks here and there to represent different branches. And we'll go right down towards the bottom here, right towards that bottom level. And this is really good practice here because your lines are going to start to go from pointing to the left to just ever so slightly just starting to curve and then flick the other way. You can see that sort of rotation there in some of those examples. So at the bottom here, we'll just add in some more, and they're going to start to look a little bit sort of vertical. They're going to look a little bit sort of pointed downwards. And you don't have to add in tons and tons of snow. Then once you get to here, we're going to rotate the detail. I'm going to rotate that round. I'll add in a big block of color there for a moment just to kind of differentiate those a little bit from one another. And we'll add in the snow. These ones here at the bottom are looking quite liney, and that's because my pressure of my pencil was changed and the angle. And let's continue to make our way up this side here too. Adding in some lovely snow. And this brush is fantastic. I love this brush because you can add in lots and lots of sort of texture, especially with the element of snow. It looks fantastic. I'm just creating little V shapes, and then I'm going back and trying to look for the other branches that are sitting underneath. We'll create another little sort of V shape up here and just trying to mimic almost what I've done on the opposite side, but not to sort of add in a level of symmetry. And then once you've done the outer edges, again, we can then make our way inwards, and you're just going to want to sort of create little more downward V shapes, if not just like slight V shapes. You could even just draw lines just straight down almost, just to sort of show that the branches are facing us. Because the branches here on either side are giving us their full side profile, we can see the longer stroke in it. But these ones right here in the center are going to be facing us, so we're seeing them very head on. So we need to just sort of draw them in a way that sort of represents that. Where you've got very short lines here because you're just seeing the branch again from a much more head-on angle. And I can draw in little sort of lines. I can take a look at any gaps, maybe add in another branch. Again, we'll try and do less is more and abide by that as much as possible. Sometimes it's very easy to get carried away, but we want to have an element of shading in here based on the base color of the tree. So we don't want to add in too many branches because we want that shadow of the base of the tree to come through. Here, add in a couple like that. That one's a little bit too chunky. Making my way down the tree. Got some good solid color in here. We can maybe think about creating like a larger one here towards the bottom. A couple of different branches. Little sort of V shapes, little flicks, little ticks almost, all the way down as you make your way down towards the bottom. Now at this point you could refine it as well. You could go to your eraser and tap on your eraser and use the drawing brush of the Blackburn. Same sort of brush size, maybe around about sort of 10%, and just chop away into them if you want. I'm going to go a bit smaller than that, about 5%. I'm just going to spend some time just refining some of the shapes in terms of just adding in more shading here. So like these branches here, where I can see that these two overhang this one, let's take away from this one a little bit underneath then. If it looks like it overhangs it nicely, you can give it a shadow by simply just leaving the base color to come through. Your base color sometimes is your shading color. You can just allow that to do all the work for you. You can separate some branches as well. You can even go back in a moment and link them together. It's totally up to you. I'm looking for areas where I think I can maybe sort of break down the snow a little bit more. And you could just simply just go on every single brush, branch, should I say, with a tilted brush and just fade away the top edge where the branch above is casting a shadow down onto the layer below. Just taking a look at that, blending it out, blending them out using the eraser and the tilt of the brush, giving me my snowy little branches. You should end up with something like this. Now, if you like drawing trees like this, you'll love the tutorials I've been posting over on my Patreon. I'll throw up a couple of them on the screen now as we make our way through. Now, this layer here with all the snow on, what we're going to then do is tap on it and alpha lock it. We're then going to go to our colors and grab the bottom color in the second column from the right. Then we're going to go to our brush. We're going to change it to airbrushing and the soft brush. And with a brush size probably around about sort of 18%, you're going to go down the right hand side and just shade in that side of the tree. Try not to run over the sort of peak a little bit too much, but something like this will look great. And then we're going to go ahead and add some brighter spots to the snow. So we'll go ahead and, staying on the same layer, we're going to go to our colors and grab the top color in the second column from the right. Your brush wants to be changed to the drawing brush again of the Blackburn. We'll probably drop it down to about maybe 10% on this occasion. And then we're looking for any of the branches, especially on the left hand side, that have got a good solid amount of shape to them. And we can just scrape in some brighter highlighted areas of snow. So we're just going to scrape over the top here of some of the ones, especially again on that left hand side of your tree, brightening them up, giving them some extra highlight, and where the snow's the brightest. So with a snow sort of area, I always tend to draw in the snow with a base color, such as the light blue that we drew it in with before, and then go over the top with it and add in white. You don't really want to go straight to white because snow's not always bang on the bright white. There's lots of different colors and hues in there. And then when you get towards the middle here, you need to sort of pick, do you want to run over onto the edges or not? So for these ones over here at the very top and on the very edge, I'm just going to add in like the lightest scrape, maybe where the light's making its way around and just catching on the edge of some of these branches maybe. Very, very light scrape, tilting my pen on its side, add in just tiny bits. And then these ones in the middle, we can maybe add like a little bit onto the top edge, but very, very sparingly. We don't want the light to travel around into the shadowed side, so we don't have to add in a bunch of colour on here. We can just keep it really, really light. And then I'll add in a bit more at the top here too. Lovely stuff. And now you should have a lovely snowy tree. So let's now add in some extra highlights. So we're going to go down to the tree itself. We're going to tap on it and we're going to alpha lock it so it can't paint outside of it. We're going to go to our colours and we're going to grab this green here at the top of the third column from the right. We're going to go to our brush. Going to go to airbrushing and the soft brush, and just like we did with the snow, we're going to add in a brighter side though on the left hand side this time with this green and blend that in towards the center. So a little bit of a brighter edge over there on the left, fading it round. All of these colors will come to life, especially towards the end once we've got everything of our design together. We're then going to go ahead and create another new layer. It will clip itself automatically, and we're just going to change the blend mode from normal to the option of add. And we're going to go ahead and go to our brush and change it to drawing and that Blackburn brush again. And what you want to do is with a sort of 10% brush size, where you can see some of the snow, underneath these branches, don't add any detail, but on the end of the branches, you can just scrape in the tiniest little bit of extra sort of green streaks in here. Just like so, just like additional sort of color to some of the branches. So essentially where your snow is, maybe just try and scrape in a little bit of these brighter green strokes in behind. Don't go too mad with this because this particular color is quite green and punchy, isn't it? So we don't want to go too mad. I just want to add in a little bit of extra green here and there, and then leave the underside, of course, of these with the base color and that gradient that we added. So see if we can add in a few more in the center here, just sort of facing. It's just a bit of fun to add in some nice punchy colors now and then. And then you should end up with a lovely bright tree. We're then going to go ahead and we're going to move to the next part of the design where we'll just color in the stump down here and the ground. So we'll go to the stump, we'll go ahead and we'll tap on it and we'll alpha lock it. So we can't paint outside of it. And we're going to go to our colors and grab the middle color here in the fourth column from the right. And all you need to do is just simply draw in some sort of few vertical lines here on the left hand side only, and that's it. Maybe the tiniest bit on the right edge, and that's it. We're then going to go ahead and go to our eraser, tap on the eraser and making sure we use something like the airbrush and the soft airbrush, and we'll reduce the brush size down to about sort of 2%, and we'll just blend out the very bottom edge in a circular fashion just to make it look like it just fades into what will be the snow. And you can create little mounds in front of it if you like. It's totally up to you. A little something like this. We'll then go ahead and do the ground. So we'll go down a layer, we'll tap on it and we will alpha lock it so we can't paint outside of it. We'll go to our colors. We'll go ahead and we'll grab the middle color here in that second column from the right again. Our brush wants to be set to the drawing brush again of the Blackburn. And probably around about sort of maybe 16%. We're going to add in some bright edge of the snow. So again, light sources on the left, so don't add too much around sort of the base of the tree, but just creating a couple of little sort of wave shapes and then a little bit on the back edge. I'm going to bring that down to 10%. You can just create a few sort of scrapes along the ground here, and all the little bits that you leave in the gaps are essentially just shadowed areas of the snow. Could be a twig, it could be a little bit of the ground popping through, it could be anything. As long as you can come up with a reasonable excuse, you can just leave it. So once you've got a little something like this, we can then go to our colours and grab the top colour in that second column from the right. And just like we did with the branches, we can just add in a little bit of a brighter touch on some of the top edges of the snow here. I'm just going to add in a little bit here, especially on the left hand side. And I'm going to create a bit more of a defined banking here. A little bit on that back edge there. And you can see I've purposely left around the base of the tree, because we're then going to go ahead and create another new layer in front of our ground. I'm going to go to our colours. We'll grab the bottom colour here, first of all, at the bottom of the third column from the right. We can go ahead and we can use the same brush as we're using currently. We're just going to go around the base, and then over here on the right hand side, just try to sort of just expand a little bit of a shadow. Expand a shadow. So I'm tipping my pen on its side quite a bit here, just to try and sort of shade in the very bottom edge of the ground. Just a little something simple like this. Now what we can do is we can also go ahead and go to our brush and go to something like this soft airbrush again, under airbrushing. Reduce the brush size down to about 5% and just very lightly sort of fade that out under here. Just expanding that texture and the shade under here, just to feather it out a bit more. Let's then go ahead and address the background. So let's go to our background. We'll create a new layer and drag it just in front of the background itself. So right at the very bottom of your layers. We'll go to our colors, and we're going to go ahead and grab this color here in the middle of the far right column. Soft airbrush still, about sort of 25% will do the trick. And up here in the top left, we're going to brighten up the left top edge of our canvas and blend that across your screen here, just to create a lovely little blue gradient. We'll then go to the colors and grab the top color here in the second column from the right. And we're going to blend out a little bit of a snowy, misty layer down here. So I'm just blending upwards just to create a little bit of a lovely, soft bit of atmosphere from the ground below. And you might end up losing a little bit of your ground, and that's fine. That's totally okay with me. Let's then add some driven snow to this. So we're going to go ahead and in front of our tree, we'll create a new layer. So underneath your circle here, create a new layer. Same color, the top of that second column from the right. You're going to go to your brush. I'm going to go to Elements and Driven Snow. And I've got 3 different brush sizes. I've got 100%, I've got 44, and I've got 13. So if we go to 100% to start with, they're your largest, of course. You can just drive down the screen here, creating some large areas of snow. They're the closest ones to us. Don't go too mad too early with those ones. Drop it down to 44% and draw in some smaller areas of snow. Get in front of your tree. Don't be afraid to add some just floating in front of the tree, right in front of us as we're looking at this scene. And then you can go ahead and drop it down to the 13% mark and get in here and create some really fine areas of snow. This may take a little while, but I recommend just doing lots of drags with this brush rather than go like this. I would do lots and lots of drags with the small size. And I'm going to focus it a little bit more towards the top and maybe a little bit like as if it's coming off of the branches of the tree. Adding in lots of fun small areas of texture. Let that come all the way down, and again, don't be afraid to get in front of the tree as well. Add in some snow on there too, falling right in front of us. And then jump between the sizes as you wish. I might just add a couple more larger ones there on the left hand side, but until you end up with a nice full scene here at the top of your design primarily. Don't want to add in too much. I want to have that nice blend out towards the bottom. For a moment, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my drawing guide as well, because we don't need that on anymore. I'm then going to go ahead and add in the next stage, which is going to be our lights. So we're going to create a new layer again. We'll drag it underneath our snow though, so it just needs to be underneath your snow. Tap on it and turn off the clipping mask if it clips itself to the tree. We're then going to go ahead and go to our brush. We're going to go into the option of luminance, and we're going to use the light pen. And I've got the size maxed out. We're going to go to our colors, and we're going to use these colors here. Feel free to use any set of colors you like, but I'm going to go ahead and go left to right, left to right, left to right. So we're going to grab this color here in the top left of the palette. We're going to go ahead and add in some lights. So I'm going to start at the top here, draw in like a little bulb, then change the color. So I'm going to be quite quick with just changing the color. All I'm doing though is going left to right. And we're using the light pen. So if you press quite firm, you'll end up getting like a nice bright glowy bulb look to it. And I'm just going to keep making my way across. And sometimes when I'm pressing, it's not adding in a bit of a glow. So I'm pressing then a couple of times just to get that little bit of a glow. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make mine go from the right to the left diagonally across. So I'm going to go back to the blue again. I'm going to tuck it under here this time. And I'm going to make my way across all the colors. And again, feel free to experiment with different colors if you like. I think these ones look really cool because they're nice and bright, nice and punchy. We get some really cool color in here, especially towards the end. We've got a couple of extra little effects to add in as well. And just keep filling in your tree. And you can keep them nice and small. You don't have to make them all the same size either. Because of the way that this brush works, it would be good if you have a few that are a little bit different in size to one another. Just so that, you know, maybe one's hidden under a branch or it's not facing you directly. So it's not going to get quite the same sort of level of glow. And it just makes sure that things just have their own sort of unique size to them. Otherwise you end up with quite easy repeatable patterns that can be quite visible and quite obvious. So we're just going to continue to make our way across the palette. And with the brush, if you press a few times, you might get that lovely bright center like these ones here. So keep messing around with them. That one's hidden behind some snow. That looks really cool. Let's make our way across. We've got orange now, so I'm going to imagine that wraps around, comes around maybe here. I'm just going to continue to make my way through the palette. Now in my practices for today's design, I ended up making a few different variations, and one of which was just using one color for the light. So maybe when you're done, you can maybe go back and maybe see what it would look like with maybe one color. Maybe you want to do only a particular color scheme for your tree. Lots of cups. So essentially every single time, just tapping what feels like twice most of the time, just to get the right color and the right sort of size of the color as well, and get that little glow from the center as well. Some of them, they go perfect almost first time. The blue ones look great in the shaded areas. And in fact, all the colors look pretty good in the shaded area as well. I'm not going to skip ahead. I never do in my tutorials. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe for weekly Procreate content, but I'd never skip ahead in my tutorials. We just do it all together, even if it means me just fill in the dead air for a moment with some absolute waffle. But it's nice to do them all together. You can see the mistakes that I make, and also I can maybe let you know of a few different extra techniques as I make my way through the design, things to maybe sort of bear in mind. We're going to end up with a really fun, colourful tree design by the end of this. And we've got a few little extra steps just to add in towards the end. So we're very nearly coming towards the end of the tutorial. Oh, didn't get a little bit of a glow from the centre of that one, so I'll go back to that. We're going to move to the green. You don't have to do them in the pattern either. You can do them in any order of the colours you wish. And make sure that some of these blue ones are a little bit varied in their colours and their sort of weight of the brightness. Look at the purple difference between these four even. I could maybe brighten that one up, for example. Make sure to create variation, not only in this, just any design that you make. If you create variation, you create lots of sort of extra levels of detail without even really thinking about it. You're creating different variations in lighting that's more realistic. Nothing is consistent. Like if we were to draw this in and make sure every single bulb was exactly the same, it's not always going to be the way, is it? Now, taking a look at that, we've got some fantastic color on our trees. Let's then go ahead and go to our bulbs. We'll swipe it to the left and duplicate it. We'll go to the bottom one out the two. Go to our adjustments and we'll go to bloom. And you can mess around with all the different sort of sliders down here. If I swipe from left to right, all the way to the right, adding in 100% bloom there. You can mess around with these. You can maybe change the size of the glow. You can adjust the burn, which is going to really punch out the color. It's totally up to you how much color you want to add. I wouldn't go too sort of crazy too early doors. Just maybe mess around with it and build up to more sort of brighter colors. But the glows themselves, just have some fun. Find something that you like the look of. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go for max transition, 39% size and 65% burn with 100% bloom there. That gives me loads of really beautiful color down here. And if I tap on my adjustments when I'm done, we've finished with our lights. Now we can go ahead and add in the final little touch on the sort of end of this, which is just to add in the little bit of the shadow that's going to sit at the very back. So if we go ahead and go up to our layers, we've got that circle that we cut out earlier on. If we create a new layer in front of it and we tap on it and we clipping mask it to the circle, we then tap on the circle and we tap on it and use the option of select. So we've selected the outer rim here, this little frame that we created. Let's then go ahead and invert that. So we now want to fill in the center only. If we then go to our colors, we go ahead and we grab the bottom color here. So the bottom of that second column from the right. If we go back up to our layers and that empty one that we clipped, if we tap on it and we fill it, nothing will happen. But you can see from the thumbnail that the actual circle's now been filled in. But because it's clipped to the frame, because it's clipped to empty space, you can't see it yet. Now what we can do is we can go to our adjustments and we can go to the option of Gaussian blur. We can swipe from left to right just ever so slightly up to about sort of 6%, and you'll see that sort of rim around the outside come into play a little bit. Then go back up to your adjustments and tap on it again and go to the option of motion blur and drag from the center of your design down towards the bottom right, creating a bit of a diagonal motion blur there of our shadow. When you drag down towards the bottom right, if you then grab your cursor, drag it down to the bottom right, you should be able to create that shadow, making it look as if this area here is floating above our design. And tap on your cursor when you're done. And if you pinch with 2 fingers and you go full screen with 4, you end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations. If you post them on Instagram, make sure to tag me. And you can come and join my Discord server. It's completely free. And you can come and join in with the rest of the community that shares all of their designs, whether they're Joel Create designs or any other tutor that you follow. It's an awesome place to come and share your work with other enthusiasts of Procreate. And as always, a massive thank you to my supporters over on Patreon who help make these videos possible. If you didn't already know, I post 3 more exclusive tutorials every single month to my Patreon supporters, a couple that you'll be able to see on the screen now. You can have your name featured in tutorials, get sneak peeks, early access, and much, much more. So hit the link in the description down below and come and support the channel. And if you like this tutorial here on YouTube, you'll probably love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, depending on when you're watching this. And I'll see you in the next one.